The sun was dipping low, painting the horizon in streaks of red and gold, when Clara Morgan rode into the small frontier town. Dust clung to her boots, her hat shadowed her eyes, and her shoulders slumped with the weight of miles traveled alone. Folks on the boardwalk stopped to stare. She was no stranger to the kind of looks a lone woman with a gun belt drew. Clara ignored them, tying her horse outside the saloon. She didn't come for whiskey or company. All she wanted was food she hadn't cooked over an open fire, and maybe word of work. Inside, the saloon was buzzing. Men laughed too loud. Poker chips clicked. Boots scuffed the floorboards. Clara's eyes swept the room, calm but sharp. She slid onto a stool, ordered stew, and kept her gaze on the plate when it came. She ate slow, savoring every bite, though the taste was rough compared to what she could manage herself. A young girl caught her eye from the corner, maybe 9 or 10, balancing bowls as she helped the cook. Their eyes met briefly before the girl turned away. Clara kept eating, silent as always, but something about the girl's stare lingered. Later that evening, Clara camped outside town, unwilling to pay for a noisy, smoke-filled room. She built a small fire, cooked beans in a tin pot, and leaned against her saddle. The horse nickered softly, shifting in the dark. Clara wasn't lonely, she told herself. She'd been alone too long to crave company. Yet, as the night deepened, the image of the girl from the saloon came back to her, the way her small hands moved quickly, the look of someone used to carrying more weight than her years. Clara frowned, poked at the fire, and muttered, "Not my concern." But fate had its own plans. The next morning, while Clara tightened her saddle straps, she heard a small voice. "You're not from around here, are you?" She turned sharply. There stood the same girl, holding a basket of bread, eyes wide but steady. Clara narrowed her gaze. "You shouldn't be out here." The girl shrugged. "Pa's working the ranch. I saw you last night. You don't talk much," Clara grunted, adjusting her hat. "Don't need to." The girl stepped closer, holding out the basket. "I made this. You look hungry." Clara hesitated, then accepted it with a nod. "Thanks." The girl sat on a rock nearby, watching Clara eat. "I'm Mary," she said. "Ma passed last winter. I help Pa now. I cook." Clara chewed slowly, nodding once. "Clara." Mary tilted her head. "Clara what?" "Morgan," came the curt reply. Mary studied her. "You're different. You don't laugh like other folks." Clara smirked faintly. "Don't see the point." Mary frowned. "Pa says people who don't laugh carry heavy saddlebags in their hearts." Clara's eyes softened for a second, though her face stayed stern. "Your pa's not wrong." Mary smiled then. "Maybe you can teach me. You look like you know things." Clara wasn't sure why she didn't right away right then. She had no business with ranch families or wide-eyed girls, yet something in Mary's stubbornness hooked her. That evening, Clara found herself following Mary back to the ranch on the edge of town. It was a small place, lean fences, tired cattle, a house weathered by storms. A tall man stepped out onto the porch, wiping sweat from his brow. His eyes narrowed at Clara. "Who's this?" Mary piped up. "She's Clara. She's hungry, and she cooks good, I bet." Clara tipped her hat, muttering, "Don't talk much, but I can cook." The rancher studied her a long moment before nodding slowly. "Name's Tom Wilkins. Can't pay much, but if you'll work, you'll eat." Clara dismounted, her boots crunching gravel. "That'll do." Mary beamed, tugging her inside. The kitchen smelled faintly of bread and beans, but Clara's eyes went straight to the stove. Iron cracked, pans blackened with neglect. She set down her hat, rolled up her sleeves, and got to work without another word. Mary watched, fascinated, as Clara moved with confidence, cutting onions, stirring pots, measuring by instinct. For the first time in months, the house filled with the rich scent of home cooking. At supper, Tom raised an eyebrow at the food on the table. "Better than I've had since before." His voice cracked on the last word. eyes shadowed. Mary grinned, spooning seconds onto her plate. "Told you she could cook." Clara said nothing, just kept eating quietly. But inside, warmth spread through her chest. She hadn't cooked for more than herself in years. The silence at the table was different, comfortable, not heavy. Afterward, as she washed dishes, Tom said gruffly, "You can stay. Room in the barn." Clara met his eyes briefly. "I'll earn my keep." He nodded once. Days turned into weeks. Clara worked hard, fixing fences, mucking stalls, hauling water alongside Tom. But her true gift shone in the kitchen. She taught Mary how to season beans, how to knead dough until it sang beneath her hands, how to stretch scraps into feasts. Mary followed her every move, eyes wide with admiration. "You don't talk much, but you show me plenty," the girl said one evening. Clara gave the faintest smile. "Words are cheap. Food tells the truth," Tom overheard, his gaze lingering on Clara longer than before. He didn't say it, but gratitude softened his features. One night, Mary sat beside Clara by the fire. "Why don't you laugh?" she asked quietly. Clara poked the embers with a stick. "Ain't much to laugh about." Mary leaned closer. "But when you cook, you look different. Like the world don't hurt so much." Clara swallowed hard, the girl's words striking deeper than she expected. "Cooking's simple. Fire, food, hunger. No lies in that." Mary nodded solemnly. "Then don't stop." Clara stared into the flames, her heart aching with old scars. She had lost plenty, family, love, dreams, but somehow this little girl's faith made the weight just a little lighter. As the weeks rolled on, Clara found herself woven into the rhythm of the ranch. Mornings began with coffee on the porch, days with sweat and sun, and evenings with the comfort of a hot meal shared. Mary chattered endlessly, asking questions about horses, cooking, even Clara's travels. Clara answered little, but her presence became an anchor in the girl's day. Tom, too, began to trust her, his eyes no longer suspicious, but searching. He saw the way Mary smiled brighter, how she slept sounder. Clara, though, kept her heart guarded. She knew happiness was fragile, and she feared breaking it. One Sunday, Mary tugged at Clara's sleeve. "Come to church with us." Clara shook her head firmly. "Not my place." But Mary's eyes pleaded. "Please, folks think you're strange. If they saw you pray, maybe they'd stop." Clara sighed, finally nodding. She wore her cleanest shirt, hat pulled low. In the wooden church, whispers rippled when she walked in. But when Mary proudly sat beside her, hand slipping into hers, Clara felt something she hadn't in years, belonging, however fragile. Afterward, Tom murmured, "Didn't think you'd come." Clara shrugged. "Didn't think I would either." Yet inside, a seed of hope took root. The gossip didn't stop. Some neighbors muttered that Clara was hiding something. Others, that she was too wild, too rough. One woman sneered, "Not fit for a child's company." Clara ignored it. But Mary bristled. "She's better than all of you!" the girl shouted once in town, clutching Clara's hand. Clara knelt afterward, stern but gentle. "Don't waste breath on fools, Mary. Folks fear what they don't know. Let 'em." Mary frowned. "But I know you." Clara's throat tightened. She squeezed the girl's hand. "That's enough." And for a moment, it truly was the child's faith outweighed all of the whispers. Still, Clara carried her past like a shadow. Alone in the barn at night, she'd stroke her horse's mane and whisper memories she never spoke aloud, names of family gone, mistakes that still haunted her. She feared Mary would ask one day about her scars, the ones not on her skin but in her soul. Yet when the girl did ask, one quiet evening, "Why are you so sad inside?" Clara could only answer, "Because life takes more than it gives." Mary's small arms wrapped around her waist. "Then I'll give it back," the child said. For once, Clara didn't pull away. Trouble came sooner than expected. One afternoon, rustlers rode close, eyeing the ranch's cattle. Tom grabbed his rifle, but it was Clara who moved fastest, firing a warning shot that cracked the air like thunder. The men cursed, spurring their horses away. Tom stared, stunned. "You didn't hesitate." Clara only shrugged. "Seen worse." Mary clapped her hands in relief, then hugged Clara's waist. "I knew you'd protect us." The words burned through Clara's chest. Protecting herself was second nature. Protecting others? That was dangerous. Yet as she looked at the girl, she realized she wanted that danger more than solitude. That night, Tom spoke by the fire. "I don't know where you came from, Clara, and I won't pry, but you've made this house warmer." Mary laughs again. I thank you." His voice carried weight, not just gratitude, but something deeper, though unspoken. Clara met his eyes, then looked away quickly. "I just cook," she muttered. Tom chuckled softly. "You do more than that." Mary, half asleep by the hearth, murmured, "She's family now." Clara's heart clenched. She hadn't been called family in years. She whispered to herself, "Don't ruin this." For the first time, she wanted something to last. The following weeks brought small joys Clara didn't expect. Mary's laughter echoing across the yard, the smell of bread baking filling the house, Tom's quiet hum as he mended tools. Clara found herself humming too while kneading dough. She caught Tom watching sometimes, a softness in his eyes she wasn't ready to face. At night, she'd sit on the porch, staring at the stars, torn between staying and running. Old habits whispered, "Don't get too close, don't trust peace." But Mary's voice in her ear, "You belong here," fought back against those whispers. For once, Clara didn't know which voice to believe. One evening, Mary insisted on cooking alone. Clara hovered nearby, correcting her grip on the spoon, showing her how to taste and season. The stew was too salty, the bread dense, but Mary beamed with pride. "I made it myself." Tom ate without complaint, praising every bite. Clara chuckled, rare but genuine. "Not bad," she admitted. Mary's eyes shone. "You laughed." Clara froze, then shook her head. "Don't get used to it." But that night, lying awake in the barn, she touched her lips where the smile had been. It felt strange. It felt dangerous. It felt like healing, but shadows lingered. One night, Clara dreamed of her past gunfire, a man's shout, blood on the ground. She woke trembling, sweat soaking her shirt. The horse shifted nearby, steady as always. Clara buried her face in her hands. She feared Mary would see the cracks one day, that the girl's trust would shatter when she learned the truth. But when Mary ran to her the next morning, arms wrapping tight, Clara realized something. Maybe the past didn't have to define her. Maybe, in this place, with this child and this family, she could write a new story, if she dared. As autumn painted the prairie gold, Clara stood on the porch beside Mary, watching the cattle graze. The girl leaned against her, chattering about pies and schoolwork. Clara listened quietly, her heart unsteady but warm. Tom joined them, silent but solid, his presence grounding. Clara glanced at them both and felt something stir, a sense of belonging she thought she'd buried long ago. She didn't speak it, not yet. Words were cheap. But her hands itched to keep building, keep cooking, keep protecting. For the first time in years, Clara wanted to stay, and wanting, she knew, was the bravest risk of all. The first frost came silver and thin, a warning more than a wound, and Clara felt it in her hands as she split kindling before daylight, the air tasting like a promise the valley would soon ask her to keep. Tom checked the north fence with Daniel, while Mary kneaded dough at the kitchen table, forearms dusted white, face lit with pride at the steady rhythm Clara had given her. The quiet was a good quiet, the kind that says, a home believes in itself. But Clara, who trusted weather more than hope, heard the wind and recognized its teeth. By noon, hoofbeats stitched a warning across the pasture. 3 riders on the ridge became 5, then 6. Their silhouettes, long and lean against the brittle sky. Tom came in fast, hat low. "Carson men," he said, the name carrying the kind of history that dulls sunlight. Clara folded the tablecloth without breaking eye contact. "Mary, bank the fire, then set water to boil. Tom, tools to the cellar. Daniel, stay with your sister." She did not raise her voice. Authority arrived like a hand on a shoulder, steady and sure. Outside, the wind changed direction, and the house listened. They did not charge immediately. Carson's men were patient thieves, preferring a door to break itself rather than splinter under a body. Clara stood on the porch with her rifle held calm at her side, not as threat, but as posture, while Tom squared his shoulders, learning and borrowing courage in the same breath. Mary peered from the kitchen window, apron twisted in her hands, the kettle starting to mutter. "We talk first," Clara said, not hopeful, just practical. "Words are cheaper than ammunition." Tom nodded once. In the yard, the riders fanned out like a story rehearsed too often. "Morning," the front rider called, smile wrong, eyes colder than frost. "Fine spread. Shame your fence keeps trespassers from enjoying the view." Clara lifted the rifle a finger's width. "Fence keeps cattle where cattle belong," she answered, each syllable clean. "State your business." The rider's grin widened. "Heard your table's heavy again. Heard you picked up help that can cook and shoot. Thought we'd share in the plenty." The men snickered. Clara's mouth didn't move. "We share with neighbors who bring bread, not fire. Turn around." Behind her, the kettle rattled harder. Mary's breath fogged the glass in uneven hearts. Words failed exactly where Clara expected. The rider cocked his head, then his pistol. Tom inhaled. Clara's rifle spoke first, a flat punctuation mark in dry air, the bullet shearing the tassel from the man's hat and pinning it to a fence post. Laughter snapped into anger. 2 riders spurred forward, then thought better and wheeled away at Tom's answering shot. Mary flinched, hand to her mouth, but did not scream. She kept feeding wood to the stove because Clara had asked for boiling water, and duty is a door a child can hold open with both small hands. The gang tested perimeters like wolves nudging a corral, circling to the barn, then the creek, then the garden. Mary and Clara had begged from tired soil all summer. Clara counted heartbeats, counted men, counted angles, discovering in the arithmetic that bravery is mostly subtraction, of panic, noise, the need to win everything at once. "They'll come at dusk," Tom murmured, eyes always moving. "That's when folks doubt their own shadows." Clara nodded. "Then we'll set lights where a man expects dark, and dark where he expects lights." Mary listened, committed the plan to memory, and set plates anyway. Clara made supper early, simple stew pulled from bone and wisdom, biscuits that listened to gentle hands, coffee that refused to lie. They ate at the table without pretending the house wasn't bracing. Tom's hands didn't stop shaking until Mary slid her bowl beneath his and said, "You eat first, Pa. You work hardest," borrowing Clara's old rule and giving it back as comfort. Clara watched the exchange and felt something like marrow return to her bones. "Light 2 lamps," she told Mary after. "Put one in the back window, shade low, leave the front dim. Shadows do good work." Dusk walked in slow, as if it owned the road. The gang returned with extra hooves and louder plans, glassy silhouettes against the last ribbon of day. Clara placed Tom by the woodpile, where the logs made cover and history. She took the porch, because porches teach a person how to stand exactly long enough. She had Mary and Daniel under the kitchen table, the floorboards creaking soft above them in a language fear and faith both understand. When the first shot came, it came from the far side, a test, a question. Clara's answer was crisp and unembarrassed. For 10 long minutes the yard argued with bullets. Then quiet rewrote the sentence, and far off a horse complained about men and choices. Clara breathed through the ache in her right shoulder, the one that always remembered rain, and shifted her weight, not giving pain the dignity of a wince. A man tried the barn door. Tom winged him and sent him to grammar school. A lantern broke against the well. Mary flinched under the table, then whispered, "It's all right, it's all right," the way a good cook whispers to dough until it rises for company and courage. The leader stepped into lamplight as if he'd earned it. Scar on the cheek, coat too clean for honest work, smile like a promise no law would witness. "We don't want your girl," he called, as if gracious. "We want your stock, your tools, your quiet. World's expensive, we're collecting." Clara laughed once, not kindly. "You want our quiet?" She set the front lamp higher so he could see the barrel. "Then listen." Her shot took the buckle off his belt and introduced humility where geography had failed. The men behind him paused, updated their theology, and moved slower. They retreated, gathered, discussed, as if committee minutes could vote down resolve. Clara used the pause to move Mary from table to cellar, Daniel following, reluctant, heroism itching in small shoulders. "You keep the kettle singing," Clara told Mary, voice low but bright, a lighthouse tone. "If we shout kitchen, you open the door and slide it out." Mary swallowed. "I can do it," Daniel hissed. "Me too." "You'll hold the lantern," Clara said, laying the weight of usefulness in his palms. "Light is half a fight." His chin lifted, a boy promoted, and the house stood taller. The second push came broad and messy, 3 from the corral, 2 from the pear tree, 1 foolish enough to test the open yard. Clara learned again how a rifle turns breath into math and prayer, how a porch rail is a friend if you don't ask it to do more than hold your sleeve. Tom cursed when a splinter found his palm, then wiped the blood on his trouser leg like punctuation. One rider tried to light the roof with a bottle and bad ideas. Clara shot the wick as it flew, and the bottle remembered sobriety on impact. When the gang finally broke and bled back into the dark, the yard heard only horses for a while, then the small sounds a night makes when it's remembering how. Clara exhaled carefully, as if breathing too fast might call trouble back, and only then felt her knees audition for mutiny. Tom touched her elbow. "You hurt?" "Only where it counts," she said, which meant alive. Mary opened the cellar and climbed out, carrying a packed plate, hands steady, face older by an hour. She set the plate on the porch rail as if feeding the night itself for good behavior. There was mending to do, boards to nail, glass to sweep into stories nobody would tell children until they were old enough to laugh about fear without teaching it to their bones. Clara washed the rifle and the good skillet with the same care, because tools that hold heat and tools that hold consequence both deserve respect. Tom found his voice again beside the woodbox. "You could have left us a dozen times," he said. Not accusing, not pleading, just naming. Clara shook her head. "I don't leave tables that still tell the truth." Mary wrapped arms around both, answer enough. In town, the story altered itself to fit mouths and Monday. Some said Tom had chased a dozen men alone, others that the sheriff ride-in chased 40, still others that Mary had thrown boiling coffee like a saint of scalds. Clara listened while buying flour and replaced corrections with a small smile, because accuracy is a luxury in places where survival does the talking. Jensen slipped extra yeast into her sack and whispered, "For bread that stands up in a fight." She tipped her hat. Leaving, she caught sight of 2 Carson riders nursing bandages and fragile egos. They looked away. Peace returned, not as parade but as practice. Clara taught Mary how to bone a fish without teaching it to remember the river, how to listen for the moment onions forgive the pan, how to taste with the heart first, the tongue second. She taught Daniel how to carry a bucket so it wouldn't spill, even if fear jostled his elbow. Tom learned where Clara kept the lard and the shot, which one soothed biscuits, which one soothed evenings that threatened to split. The house grew its own weather-warm drafts that knew which rooms needed company and which needed closed doors. On Sundays, Clara sat at the back of the church, hat brim low, the hymn book open to memory. Mary sang beside her with untrained joy, and Tom, who had forgotten how to pray without apologizing, relearned in Clara's unflinching presence that honesty is the only liturgy the prairie respects. After the service, the school teacher asked Mary where she learned to season stew so a man remembered his manners. Mary said, "Miss Clara showed me," and didn't add that the woman who didn't talk much had taught her how silence can be a table with room for everybody's plate. Winter proper arrived with a palette of white and a sense of humor. Drifts leaned against the house like nosy kin. The pump handle needed a mitten and a hymn before it would move. Clara watched the sky and allocated firewood the way a quartermaster allocates kindness enough, not more. At night, the four of them played cards by lamplight, while Wind auditioned for a place in the family and got turned down politely. Once, when the chimney sighed wrong, Clara rose without a word and fixed it. The kind of competence that makes children believe the world might forgive them. Spring's first melt found the yard soft and new, and Mary kneaded dough that rose like a lesson learned at last. Tom set fence posts straight this time because he had a partner who didn't let him call almost good enough. And Daniel learned the curve of a lariat that falls true because practice is a kind of love. One evening, Clara laughed, unprovoked and complete, and the sound startled even the stove. Tom looked up as if a comet had passed low. "There it is," he said softly. Clara shook her head. "Don't make a monument. Just a home," he answered. On the first truly warm night, they ate on the porch bread that tore clean, stew that told honest stories, coffee that forgave the day. Stars sewed themselves into the dark without needing to be asked twice. Clara leaned back, boots on the rail, hat tipped to a sky she used to mistrust, and realized there was no weight left in the saddlebag she had carried inside her ribs. Mary leaned against her shoulder. Daniel dozed against Tom, and the house breathed like a living animal, content. "You don't talk much," Mary murmured, half asleep. "No," Clara said, smiling, "but I can cook.